Everyone in Riverdale's inner circle knew that Dominic, the reigning head of Vance, was savage-tempered, the kind of lunatic people crossed the street to avoid. Lately, the rumor mill claimed he'd set his sights on a fresh college graduate. The wedding date was fixed for next week. When my fiancé Adrien heard, he locked himself in the study for 3 days straight. I carried a mug of hangover cure to him only to freeze outside the cracked door when his voice and Connor's floated through. You have to make sure Luna boards that flight on the wedding day. I can't just stand by and watch her marry that maniac Dominic. Connor swore with breezy confidence. Relax. It's all arranged. But what about Serena? If you leave her stranded at the altar, Dominic won't let her off the hook. Adrien gave a short mocking laugh. However crazy he is, he's still my brother. Once he knows Serena was mine, he'll bark, but he won't bite. As soon as Luna and I are settled abroad, I'll send for Serena. The instant those words landed, the scolding hangover cure slipped from my hands and splattered across the carpet. Later, Adrien and Luna were tugging their suitcases toward the departure gates when they spotted us in the VIP lounge. Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel and drop your location in the comments. Adrien's expression could have won Best Disaster Scene of the Year. He had one hand on his rollerboard, the other clamped around Luna's wrist like a soldier sprinting toward freedom. At the sight of me, his feet welded themselves to the floor. Beside him, Luna's delicate face drained of every last drop of color. Her gaze shot past me and locked on the man at my side, her body trembling in tiny spasms. Dominic was methodically wiping his fingers with a sanitizing towelette, as if he had just touched something filthy. Sensing the scorching stares, he lifted his eyes, pitch black and predatory, the stare of a wolf sizing up trapped rabbits. Seen enough. His mild tone still made both Adrien and Luna flinch. Adrien's focus lurched from me to Dominic and snapped back again. I could almost hear the synapses detonating in his skull. Serena, what are you doing here? And him, why are you with? I lifted my coffee and blew on the steam. Exactly what it looks like. What the hell does that mean? Adrien's voice cracked toward a shout. You're supposed to be at the venue. Why are you with my brother? Luna tugged his sleeve, timid. Adrien, calm down. Maybe there's some mistake. Serena, I smiled. Serena Sterling, we're not exactly besties, are we? Luna's complexion flashed from white to crimson. Tears pooled instantly, as though the universe had wronged her. Adrien's heartbreak was stamped across his face. He glared at me like I'd committed a capital crime. Serena, be civil to Luna. She had no idea. Oh, she didn't know you planned to elope, or that you intended to dump me at the altar so I could absorb Dominic's rage on her behalf. My volume never rose, yet every syllable landed like a dart. Adrien's skin cycled through red, white, and green before settling on ashen gray. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Dominic, silent until now, flipped the used wipe into the trash. He rose, his tall frame casting thundercloud pressure. Stepping beside me, he rested an arm along the back of my chair, an unmistakable declaration of ownership. He never looked at me. His contemptuous, razor-sharp gaze pinned Luna. You must be Luna. She shivered. Why, yes. Dominic gave a dispassionate grunt, then flicked a red booklet from his inner pocket onto the table. Allow me to introduce myself, Dominic, Serena's lawfully wedded husband. The marriage certificates blazed scarlet against the marble. Adrien stared as though he could burn holes through them with his retinas. Impossible. When could you have, while you barricaded yourself in the study, plotting your great escape? I cut in light as air. I slid from my seat and threaded my arm through Dominic's. Adrien, you kept saying your brother would only give me a slap on the wrist, right? Now that I volunteered to be his wife, you ought to congratulate me. After all, I love you so much. I simply had to solve the problem menacing your darling. Every word twisted the knife. Adrien's face finished its tragic rainbow and collapsed into lifeless clay. Serena, you enjoy your trip. I swept past them on Dominic's arm. Behind us, suitcase wheels rattled, and Luna's bottled sobs followed. Dominic never broke stride. Only after we'd folded ourselves into the black Bentley with the obnoxious plates did he angle his head my way. Cabin light bled across half his face. The rest stayed shadowed, unreadable. Feel better. I studied the city streaking past the window. Good. He turned away. Remember our deal, Serena? I handed you the title of Vance. Don't make me regret it. Silence thick enough to choke on flooded the car again. Dominic's place wasn't a home. It was a fortified glacier. Soaring sheets of glass, a monochrome palette, cavernous stillness that echoed your pulse. A middle-aged butler named Harris relieved us of our coats with zero warmth. Sir Serena, dinner is served. He paused. Also news just in. The Riverside parcel. The rival bidder withdrew. Dominic gave a curt nod. Bankruptcy versus forfeiture. Two different sports. Proceed as planned. I want him on his knees. Trailing him. I took in the long, immaculate table set for two. We ate without conversation. Knife, fork, porcelain, disciplined inhalation of air. When the last course vanished, Harris escorted me upstairs. Serena, this will be your room. The guest suite rivaled the master in scale, but I felt nothing. The door shut and sandalwood curled from a new crystal diffuser on the nightstand. I wasn't sure whether leaping into this abyss was triumph or suicide. Thanks. My phone vibrated like an angry hornet. Adrien, I declined. He called again. I declined, then blocked him. Silence at last. Minutes later, a strange number buzzed in with a text. Serena, pick up. Are you insane? What the hell are you trying to pull? I could picture him foaming at the mouth. I took my time answering with 4 words. Clearing your seat. Then I blocked that number too. When I stepped out of the shower, I opened Instagram. Luna hadn't disappointed. She'd posted a picture. A black, lightless ocean. The caption read, "Some lights you think will save you only push you deeper into the dark." Underneath, our mutual Connor had already left a string of comments. Luna, what's wrong? You okay? Don't be sad, babe. It'll get better. Did someone hurt you? Textbook case of having her cake and eating it. Moments later, my iMessages started flashing. Serena, what happened between you and Adrien? I heard his brother's marrying Luna. Serena, what did you do to Adrien? Luna's crying her eyes out. Reading the interrogations, I almost laughed. I was about to lock the phone when a new post popped up. Dominic, his Instagram had been blank for years. This was the first thing he'd ever shared. A photo, a red marriage certificate gripped by long, sharp-jointed fingers. The VIP lounge where I had just been waiting in the background. The caption was even simpler. 2 words. Mine. In an instant, every group chat I was in exploded. The same people who'd been grilling me vanished into silence. 3. I was still staring when someone knocked. I opened the door. Dominic stood there in a black silk robe, the collar half open. He handed me his phone. Delete it. I looked down. Luna's melodramatic post was on the screen. Content unavailable, it read. He lifted his eyes. Triumph and a near deranged possessiveness flashed in them. I don't want my wife tangled up in any way with gutter trash. He stepped closer, his tall frame swallowing me in shadow, pupils black ice. That includes social media. His voice dropped. Absolute. Remember who you are now, Serena. You can't afford the price of trouble. Got it? I nodded. He turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. We're having dinner at the ancestral estate tomorrow. Don't disgrace me. He walked off without a backward glance. I shut the door and leaned against it. My palms were slick with cold sweat. Making a deal with this man was like bargaining with a tiger over its own skin. The Vance family dinner felt colder than a Siberian front. Along the long mahogany table sat the patriarch, Theodore. Adrien was there too, fidgety Luna beside him. When Dominic and I took our seats, every gaze locked on us. Adrien's eyes were poison daggers trying to carve holes through me. Luna kept her head down, shoulders trembling. A porcelain doll about to crack. Theodore's face was thunder. His cane slammed the floor. Ridiculous. Dominic acted deaf. He picked up the serving chopsticks and placed a spare rib in my bowl. Try it. The cook's sweet and sour ribs are decent. Natural, effortless, as if we'd been married for years. I tasted it and smiled at him. Delicious. Across from us, Adrien's knuckles bleached white around his chopsticks. The meal crawled along on hidden currents. Afterwards, the maid brought soup. Luna lifted her bowl, drifting toward me on unsteady feet. Sister Serena, Vance, I asked the kitchen to make this for you. Please try. Her voice cracked, eyes red-rimmed. One step away, she suddenly twisted her ankle. Ah! A shriek. and the entire bowl of scalding soup flew straight at me. I instinctively jerked back. Dominic was faster. He yanked me into his arms and shielded me with his own back. The hot liquid soaked through the thin shirt. He sucked in a breath. The living room erupted. Adrien. Luna lay sprawled, ankle bent at a grotesque angle, tears streaming. Adrien rushed over and scooped her up. Luna, are you hurt? Did the soup burn you? He checked her arms, oblivious to Dominic, who'd taken the full splash. Then he lifted his head and roared at me. Serena, I knew it. You're jealous of Luna. How could you be so vicious? His shout left me dumbstruck. I sat in Dominic's lap, watching their tragic romantic act, not sure whether to laugh or scream. Dominic steadied me on the chair and stood. He peeled off the soaked shirt, revealing a broad swath of scalded crimson skin on his back. 4. Harris hurried over with the medical kit. Dominic ignored him, eyes fixed on Adrien. You're saying she did it? Adrien hugged Luna, neck rigid. Who else? Luna was walking fine. Why would she suddenly fall? Is that so? Dominic tapped open a video on his phone. In the clip, Luna, holding the soup, glares at me. Nearing me, she deliberately twists her ankle and flings the bowl. The angle captured it perfectly. I thought the new Chinese-style decor looked nice, so I took a casual shot, caught something fascinating instead. His tone was mild, but the room's temperature dropped below freezing. Adrien's face became a color wheel. He stared at the video, then at the tear-soaked Luna in his arms. Luna went rigid, staring at Dominic in raw first-time fear. Theodore shook with rage, cane hammering the tiles. Family disgrace. Utter disgrace. Silence thick as a tomb settled. Adrien's lips quivered. No words came. And Luna, the look she gave me, now held no more play-acted fragility or grievance, only naked, unmasked hatred. I knew this was merely the beginning. The dinner ended in discord. In the car back, I pressed a cold pack against Dominic's burn. A wide scarlet patch, tiny blisters already peppering the skin. He inhaled sharply. If it hurts, say so. I'll be gentler. I eased the pressure. He watched me in the rearview mirror, gaze unreadable. Why didn't you defend yourself? Defend what? That I didn't push her. I tugged the corners of my mouth. Who'd believe me? In Adrien's world, Luna was a white lotus needing protection, and I was the evil second lead trying to smear her. Dominic. Thank you. Whatever his motives, today he had stood in front of me. He said nothing, only closed his eyes. The car pulled up to the icy fortress. As we stepped out, he suddenly spoke. You'll move into the master bedroom. I froze. Without looking at me, he walked straight inside. I hate complications. Living together will spare us another scene like today. His excuses were always so high-sounding. I didn't refuse. Late at night, I lay on the oversized bed in the master bedroom. The space beside me was empty. Dominic hadn't come home. Instead, I got a call from Adrien. He was using a new number. Serena, come down. I'm outside. His voice was raw with exhaustion and hoarseness. Something you need. We need to talk. There's nothing left to talk about. Please, Serena. He was practically begging. Just 5 minutes. I hesitated for a few seconds. Fine. I threw a coat over my pajamas and went downstairs. Outside the gate, Adrien was leaning against his car, smoking. The ground around his feet was littered with cigarette butts. The moment he saw me, he stubbed out the cigarette and strode over. Serena, say what you came to say. I stared at him coldly through the iron bars. His eyes were bloodshot, his whole face haggard. Why did you do it? Marrying my brother helps neither him nor you. Didn't you already figure it out for me? However crazy he is, he wouldn't actually hurt me. I tossed his own words back at him. Adrien's face flushed with shame. At the time I never thought you would. Never thought I'd turn your carefully staged rescue into a joke. He squeezed his eyes shut in pain. Serena, leave my brother. Okay, I know I was wrong. Let's start over. Whatever you want, projects, shares, anything. 5. He started offering bribes as if I were merchandise he could return. I laughed. I unclasped the necklace I'd worn for 3 years. The pendant was a tiny platinum ring, the one he'd slipped on my finger when he proposed. Later, he said a ring on my hand was too flashy, so we turned it into a necklace to rest over my heart, proof he'd stay there forever. Looking back, the irony was headline-worthy. I zipped open my coat, reached through the bars and stuffed the necklace into his suit pocket. Adrien, the moment I heard what you said, we were finished. Give it back to you and don't come looking for me again. After all, I'm your sister-in-law now. I turned away without another glance. Behind me came his choked roar and the crash of something shattering. Back in my room, I froze the instant I looked up. Dominic stood at the far end of the second-floor hallway, half shrouded in shadow. I had no idea how long he'd been there. It wasn't a calm gaze. His eyes were a net heavy with pressure and dark possession, pinning me from above. When I met them, he said nothing, just pivoted and disappeared into his study. That night, I slept more soundly than I had in years. Cutting the past away felt like dropping 1,000 pounds. The next morning, Vance's internal portal released a new personnel move. Adrien was relieved of his core team post at headquarters and reassigned as vice president of the Northwest office. A promotion in name, exile and truth. Instantly, every corridor in the building buzzed. Everyone knew the once favored second son had fallen for good, and the fuse had been me. That afternoon, an unexpected call came in from Adrien's mother, my former almost mother-in-law. Her tone was as gentle as ever, but distant. "Serena, do you have time? Let's meet." I agreed. We chose a quiet tea house. She was still elegant, impeccable, though fatigue lined her eyes. "Serena, Adrien, your brother-in-law has transferred him. I heard." She sighed, took a card from her purse and slid it across the table. "There's 10 million in this account. I know money can't fix anything, but for old time's sake, could you speak to your husband? Spare Adrien and spare yourself." She studied me with pity. "Dominic is too cold. He isn't the man for you. You won't be happy with him." I looked at the card and almost laughed. To them, every move I made had a price tag. "Aunt Eleanor." I pushed the card back. "Adrien and I are over. I'm Dominic's wife now. Whether he's right for me, whether I'll be happy, that's my business." Her face darkened. "Serena, don't be ungrateful. You think marrying Dominic secures you a comfortable life. The Vance gate is not so easy to enter." I know I stood. "So I'll stand firm on my own. No need for your concern." I walked away. Her furious voice followed. "You'll regret this." I didn't. But trouble came looking all the same. 6. That evening, I was strolling the garden when Adrien burst in like a madman. Drunk, eyes crimson, he seized my wrist. "Serena, you did it, didn't you?" Tattled to my brother. "Who gives him the right?" "Let go." I yanked away in disgust. His touch made my stomach turn. "No. Tell me, what filthy trick did you use to seduce him?" His grip was iron. I couldn't break free. Just then the front door opened. Dominic was home. Seeing us tangled, his gaze turned glacial. Without a word, he strode over and punched Adrien full in the face. Adrien staggered and crashed to the ground. "Under my roof, you dare lay hands on what's mine?" Dominic's voice carried a hellish chill. He pulled me behind him and looked down at Adrien as if he were an insect. Adrien clutched his cheek, the alcohol and hatred blurring his reason. "Dominic, who do you think you are? She's trash," I threw away. "What gives you the right to pick her up?" Before the last syllable, Dominic drove a kick into his chest so hard Adrien folded like a broken puppet, retching up alcohol and blood. "Harris." Dominic's eyes were lethal. "Throw him out. Never let him set foot here again." Harris and 2 expressionless guards hoisted the drunken Adrien and dragged him off the property. Silence returned. Dominic turned, noticing the red marks on my wrist, and frowned. He led me to the living room, found the first aid kit, and silently smeared salve over the bruises. His touch was gentle, almost tender, yet in his downcast eyes, I caught a flash of obsessive possessiveness that chilled me. What he said, was it true? He spoke suddenly. "What part?" "He claimed you were something I picked up after he discarded you." I lifted my head and met his bottomless stare. "In your eyes, am I?" He went quiet. For a long moment he said nothing, then finally spoke, voice low. "No, you're the only one I would snatch back at any cost." Beneath this man's gentle touch lurked a madness that made my blood run cold. At that instant, the last ridiculous shred of longing I still felt for Adrien died. The morning after Adrien was thrown out, Theodore came in person. He didn't demand explanations. He only gave me a deep measuring look before calling Dominic into the study. I never learned what they said. I only knew that from that day on, no one came looking for trouble again. Dominic and I slipped into a strange calm. We were like roommates sharing a lease, same roof, separate orbits, neither bothering the other. He still left early and returned late, buried in work. I enrolled in half a dozen hobby classes. Flower arranging, baking, painting, packing every spare minute. Yet sometimes, late at night, he would emerge from the study and find the living room lamp left on for him and a cup of warm milk on the sideboard, and he would stand there in silence for a long time. That calm shattered on a stormy night. 7. I had been caught in the rain on the way back from the studio. By evening I was running a fever. I drifted in and out, aware of someone stroking my face with a warm towel, lifting my head to give me water. I forced my eyes open and saw Dominic's face inches away. His brows were locked together. In his eyes I saw worry I'd never witnessed before. "Dominic," I rasped. He touched my forehead, then his own. Still burning. He turned to fetch medicine, but I clutched the hem of his shirt. "Don't go." I don't know why those two words slipped out. Maybe the weakness of sickness. Maybe the small kindnesses he'd begun to show. But I suddenly needed him there. His body stiffened for a second. In the end he stayed. He sat on the edge of the bed, closed his cool, broad hand around my burning fingers, and I felt impossibly safe. As I hovered between sleep and waking, I thought I heard him sigh. When I opened my eyes the next morning, the fever had broken. Dominic was gone. On the nightstand stood a glass of water and a strip of fever tablets. I told myself everything that had happened was only a fever dream until I went downstairs and saw him at the breakfast table. Faint purple shadows beneath his eyes told me he hadn't slept at all. Seeing me, he set his file aside. "Better." "Good." He reverted to his usual coolness as though the anxious man of last night had never existed. Halfway through breakfast he spoke again. "Next weekend there's a charity gala. Come with me." "All right." I didn't ask why. I knew it was part of our bargain. My job was to play the Vance the public expected. On the night of the gala, I stepped into the galaxy print silk gown he had chosen and placed my hand on his arm beneath the chandeliers. We became the center of gravity in the room. He handsome and remote. I smiling and serene, the perfect photograph. When a tuxedoed man tried to detain me with small talk, Dominic drew me against him without a word. His gaze was a sheet of ice. The stranger retreated instantly. Everywhere I looked, I saw immaculate smiles hiding razor-sharp curiosity. Then I saw Luna. She had lost weight. The cheap gown hung loose as she trailed after a greasy middle-aged investor, her smile brittle. When her eyes met mine, jealousy and hatred spilled over. I glanced away calmly and returned a socialite's lifted glass with an equally polished smile. Midway through the evening, Dominic led me onto the terrace. Tired just a little, my feet throbbed after hours in stilettos. Without warning, he knelt in front of me. Startled, I gasped. "What are you doing?" He said nothing. He simply slipped off the cruel heels, cupped my ankle in his warm palm, and began to massage away the ache with practiced pressure. A passing couple murmured in surprise. Heat flooded my cheeks and I tried to pull away. "Don't move." His hold tightened. The rhythm of his thumbs was expert, the pain melting under his touch, and my heart thundered in my chest. Then from his pocket, he produced a small circle and slid it onto my ring finger. 8. It was a ring, not a boulder-sized diamond, just a plain band engraved with a tiny letter. An initial. "What? What is this?" My voice shook. He lifted his head. Terrace lights fractured in his dark irises like scattered stars. 10 years ago, I was thrown out of the house, huddled in a corner of the Riverdale Museum, half-starved. My mind went white. He wrapped my hand in both of his. I thought I'd die that night, cold, hungry. Then a girl in a white dress appeared like a shaft of light. She gave me a loaf of bread and every bill in her pocket, $200. The yeasty smell, the boy's bloodless profile, the soft crumpled notes, disjointed memories snapped into focus. It had been me. I didn't even recall his face. "That was you." "Me?" He rose so our eyes were level, emotion rolling off him in waves. I searched for you for 10 years, Serena. Riverdale is huge. All I knew was a white dress and a smile with 2 dimples. Then 3 years ago, Adrien brought his fiancée home. I recognized you at once. A wave of absurdity and calculated betrayal crashed over me. What had my last 3 years counted for? The lunar infatuation was bait to draw you into the trap. I knew exactly how Adrien would react when his first love reappeared. I knew he'd abandon you. Every move was plotted except he hesitated, fingers brushing my cheek, voice trembling. Except how insane it would drive me to watch you smile, cry, live for him. In that instant, all my anger and grievance crumbled before a devotion that had lasted a decade. Tears burst free and streamed down my face. On the ride home, he told me everything. 10 years earlier, the day after his mother died, his father remarried and banished him with nothing. A loaf of bread and $200 wrinkled dollars kept him alive until Theodore brought him back into the Vance fold. But he never forgot the girl who spared them. He never stopped searching. 3 years ago, the search ended when Adrien's Instagram post introduced his future bride. Dominic saw me and knew. Yet, he stayed silent, watching me cook for Adrien, plan our wedding, radiate happiness he couldn't give me himself. He was so jealous he was nearly insane. So, you deliberately leaked the rumor that you were interested in Luna? I asked. Yeah, he nodded. I knew Adrien still had feelings for her, and I knew that with his personality, he'd drop everything to save his white moonlight. Aren't you afraid I'd be so heartbroken I wouldn't want to marry you? I bet you wouldn't. He squeezed my hand. I bet on your pride, on the fact that you'd never allow yourself to be the victim everybody pitted. As it turns out, I won that bet. 9. He's a madman, a thorough gambler, and I am his wager, his one and only winning chip. Adrien and Luna. Luna ended up worse than I imagined. I later heard that in some cheap karaoke suite, a greasy investor forced her to chug an entire bottle of foreign liquor. Her so-called friends stood around cheering, laughing at how the white swan had turned into a drowned rat. They say while she was puking her guts out, the TV in the room was showing the news of you and me attending the charity gala. As for Adrien, Dominic's voice turned icy. I didn't bankrupt him right away. I let him watch the Northwest Project pick up steam, gave him hope, then yanked the rug out and watched the whole thing collapse overnight, so creditors camped at his door. In the end, I offered him one choice. Crawl away in disgrace or jump into that bottomless pit as a phantom vice president and barely survive. I felt no pity. It was the ending they deserved. When we got home, Dominic pressed me against the door and kissed me. This kiss was no longer tentative or restrained. It was 10 years of longing and suppressed emotion. Scorching fierce. Serena, say my name. He breathed the words against my ear. Dominic. I'm here. That night the stars blazed. We were no longer partners in a transaction. We were each other's destination. Only afterward did I truly come to know Dominic. Whenever my period arrived, he'd clumsily bring me a bowl of strangely colored rustic brown sugar tonic, because he'd stayed up all night researching remedies. He'd take the doodle I'd scribbled on a napkin, have it matted, and hang it in the most prominent spot in the study. When I pulled all-nighters to finish drafts, he'd sit quietly beside me until I fell asleep, then carry me back to bed. Turns out, when you love someone, you etch every one of their likes onto your heart. News of Adrien still drifted in through friends now and then. I heard he was doing terribly in the Northwest, the project hopeless, and himself sunk in despair. He tried to reach me, but I'd long since blocked every contact. People from the past should stay in the past. A year later, at Riverdale's largest royal estate, Vance threw a grand anniversary gala. Dominic and I, as hosts, welcomed guests from every quarter. I wore a scarlet gown, my belly softly rounded. Dominic stayed glued to my side the whole time, nervous as a rookie father-to-be. Midway through the banquet, I stepped out for air, and in a corner I spotted someone I never expected. Luna. She looked even gaunter than before. Heavy makeup couldn't hide the haggardness in her eyes. They were ashen, lifeless, but when she saw me, a vicious jealousy flared, then quickly died. Her stare locked on my gently curved stomach, twisting into hopeless despair. I'd heard that when she was at the end of her rope, she knelt outside her former friend's doors, only to be met with sneers and slammed gates. She didn't come over to provoke me. She only watched from a distance before melting back into the crowd. A very ordinary junior trailed after her, looking at her with undisguised contempt. For her, I suppose this was acceptance. I was about to turn away when a voice, familiar yet foreign, spoke behind me. Serena 10. It was Adrien. He was thin to the point of being unrecognizable, skin darkened, the once sparkling face now weather-beaten and defeated. His once bright eyes were sunken and bloodshot, stagnant pools of regret. I'd heard Luna had dumped him the moment he was transferred away and latched onto a new mark. Is something wrong? I asked calmly. I'm leaving for abroad next month. Probably not coming back. Oh, can I speak to you alone for a minute? He looked at me, pleading. I glanced at Dominic, who was walking toward us. No need, Vance. The past is already forgotten. I hope it is for you too. I walked past him. He suddenly reached out as if to grab me. Dominic was faster, stepping between us and catching Adrien's wrist. What do you think you're doing? Dominic's gaze was colder than ice. Adrien's wrist was clearly hurting. He yanked it back in humiliation. I just wanted to say sorry. He stared at me, eyes red, voice hollow like a gambler who'd lost everything. Serena, I'm sorry. His cracked whisper trailed off. I always took everything you did for me for granted. I thought you'd wait for me forever. I was so damn blind. I slipped my arm through Dominic's and smiled. It's all right. I don't blame you. In fact, I should thank you. Thank you for letting me go so I could meet someone better. The last trace of color drained from Adrien's face. All strength seemed to leave him at once. He stumbled 2 steps backward. Dominic and I walked away without looking back. On the drive home, Dominic stayed silent. Are you upset? I poked his arm. Still wordless, he pulled over, then pulled me into a tight embrace. I'm scared. His voice trembled. Scared of what? That you still have feelings for him. I laughed softly, cupped his face and looked straight into his eyes. Dominic, listen carefully. My heart has only ever held one person, you. Before, now, always. He stared at me, then smiled. That smile was like thawing ice, spring in bloom, so beautiful it made my own heart flutter. He lowered his head and kissed me. Outside the car, the city neon flickered. Inside was the steady peace we would share for the rest of our lives. 9 months later, our son was born. His nickname is Anan. Whatever became of Adrien, I neither know nor care. Everyone chooses their own path, and I will always be grateful that back then I chose the right one. The end.